Mere hours after Inauguration Day, the new administration began slashing hard fought environmental wins, rolling back protections from fossil fuel development, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accords, and freezing spending for critical climate resilience projects. The Trump administration has continued on that path that will end up forcing Americans to pay more for energy, bear the high financial burden and human costs of air pollution, face accelerated impacts from climate change, and a weaker, less competitive economy. The speed and scale of this dismantling of American leadership on climate and conservation has been staggering. It has left many reeling and asking what can be done to meet the climate goals that the science demands, for the sake of our ecosystems, public health, and quality of life. Unquestionably, aggressive defense of the nation's bedrock environmental laws and protections must be a priority. WRA will continue to support our many federal partners and state leaders as they fight to preserve the environmental protections that make us safer, healthier, and that preserve our connection to Western landscapes and habitat. So, what is WRA doing? Doubling down on state climate action. We know that climate and conservation progress is both still possible and critical in this moment. At WRA, we've spent more than 3 decades advancing critical climate, environmental, and conservation policies in the decision-making forums where most conservation policy is made, at the state level. Why? State governments hold significant authority to advance clean energy, regulate polluting fossil fuel sources, and to protect people in our communities. Cities and counties can adopt sustainable and efficient water use practices, smart land use plans, and invest in clean infrastructure that can power our homes and transportation systems. These decisions add up to protect the West. In 2025, our work saw climate wins in all of our states. We've already covered Utah and New Mexico, where we saw progress on clean transportation and wildlife protection, respectively, among other wins. Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado all have longer legislative sessions. So, how did those states do in advancing wins for the environment and the economy of the West? On this episode of 2 Degrees Out West, learn how WRA has helped states stay strong even as federal progress on climate action stalls. Welcome to 2 Degrees Out West, a podcast for advocates and decision makers seeking solutions to climate change and its impacts around the West. On 2 Degrees Out West, we talk with climate experts and advocates to bring you the stories, experiences, and insights from their work in the places we call home. On this episode, state-level climate action in 2025. In Arizona, WRA played defense and set up a future for new policies that can advance clean energy and outdoor equity in the critical state.
My name is Christy Silverstein, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for WRA. I've been an Arizona resident for 15 years. The policies and safeguards our team are helping put in place to protect our precious natural resources and open spaces are incredibly important to me, my kids, our community, as well as future generations of Arizonans.
Sometimes the best defense is a really strong offense. In 2025, WRA played a key role in blocking harmful bills from becoming law in Arizona.
House Bill 2223 was a proposed piece of legislation that would have severely limited wind power development. If passed, it would have effectively ended new wind energy in the state. The legislation would have required projects to be set back 6 miles from the nearest property line. WRA stepped in to oppose the bill and demonstrated how detrimental it would have been to Arizonans and our clean energy future. House Bill 2788 was another bad energy bill that would have unnecessarily complicated the state's resource planning process. A good energy planning process is a key element of helping states adopt clean energy. This bill would have made it harder to advance clean energy while reducing transparency for ratepayers, a total lose-lose scenario. Carbon reduction goals have proven to be helping utilities adopt more clean energy and stop burning fossil fuels. This proposed legislation would have also prevented utilities from incorporating carbon reduction goals into their 15-year plans. WRA opposed this bill and worked to stop it from becoming law. It is successes like this that help defend the progress WRA has made while protecting some of the fundamental tools needed to advance climate solutions in the future.
Arizona also took some steps to further their commitment to outdoor access for all.
Arizona offers excellent outdoor access. But as we've covered before on the podcast, not everyone always has equal opportunity to take advantage of our parks and open spaces. This legislative session, Arizona Senators Tim Dunn and Rosana Galbadon and Representative Patty Contreras sponsored a proclamation to recognize the importance of connecting Arizona youth to the outdoors. This resolution noted that outdoor recreation is a powerful tool for economic development in Arizona, contributing over $14 billion to Arizona's economy in just 2023 alone. The proclamation touched on the importance of outdoor recreation as a way of connecting to Arizona's diverse landscapes and cultural heritage. Protecting outdoor recreation for all, and especially enabling youth to get outside, is a priority for WRA in all of our states. We've successfully worked to fund, strengthen, and support outdoor equity programs in Nevada, New Mexico, and Colorado. So seeing Arizona recognize the importance of getting more people outside is a great win. Outdoor access promotes a strong connection to nature, which is linked to better mental health outcomes in youth, but also works to build conservation values in the next generation. The youth who benefit from outdoor access become the leaders who will help protect our landscapes in the future. For the places we love in Arizona to be protected, like the Grand Canyon, the Salton Verde Rivers, and in my own backyard, the Thunderbird Conservation Park, people need to care about them. And this starts with our youth.
We also helped other states in our region take steps to secure a clean energy future. Jamarion Williams is the government affairs manager in Nevada.
So what I do here is I work with legislators and decision makers in the state to advance priorities around clean energy, to make sure we're protecting our lands, and to ensure that we have clean and safe water in Nevada.
Nevada is unique among our states because it has one of the shortest legislative sessions.
Yeah, so in Nevada, we only meet every other year. So every odd year is when we meet. And we're meeting for 4 months. So we go from February and 120 days from that first Monday in February. This time we ended in June, and it's tough because you want to make sure that you can get things done, because you don't get the next year to accomplish it.
Jamarion says that one of WRA's key wins is helping to protect Nevada's wallets.
Yeah, thank you so much. So there's a couple priority bills that we monitored and that we directly helped advance this legislative session. And a couple of the bills that we're really proud to see move forward and that the Governor Joe Lombardo signed was Assembly Bill 452. And this was a bill for fuel cost sharing.
Fuel cost share agreements mean that a utility is required to be responsible for a part of the cost of the fuel they use to generate electricity. Without cost sharing, the utility can pass any costs on directly to their consumers. This means the utilities are incentivized to lower fuel costs or adopt renewable energy resources. Fuel cost sharing can also mean that customers are less vulnerable to surprise high bills from unexpected spikes in fuel costs.
So, Dave, part of the reason why we're excited for this is what this bill does. It's not really putting fuel cost sharing into effect with the passage of the bill. It's what it does is it's allowing the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada to open an investigatory docket just to see if a cost sharing adjustment mechanism for electric utilities is in Nevada's best interest. So, if they discover that this would benefit Nevadans, then we will adopt the system. If they determine that it doesn't and it's going to lead to too many market fluctuations or anything like that, they'll decide not to adopt it. So this bill is just making sure that we can see what's the best system for Nevada ratepayers.
Another key aspect of this bill, it helps make sure Nevadans are made whole if they're overcharged for energy.
And there was a lot of news around this in Nevada, but if you are overcharged in Nevada from your electric utility, it would make sure that you are reimbursed the full amount. In the past, and what we saw is certain electric utilities were only refunding their customers up to 6 months of being overcharged. So if they were overcharged for years, they were only going to get 6 months of back pay. So what this bill does, it corrects that issue and it makes sure that they get the total amount. So we're really excited to testify on behalf of that bill. We're really excited to work with the bill sponsor, Assemblywoman Brown May, to make sure that that bill had certain protections for Nevada ratepayers. And we're really excited to see that Governor Joe Lombardo signed this bill.
In addition to exploring the possible benefits of fuel cost sharing, Nevada took steps to make clean energy technologies more accessible. Jamarion explains.
Another bill that I wanted to talk about and I wanted to highlight, because I think this is a really important one for the state of Nevada. This is Senate Bill 132, and this was sponsored by Senator Rochelle Wynn. And what this bill did is it made appropriations to the Nevada Clean Energy Fund. So the Nevada Clean Energy Fund is essentially Nevada's green bank.
Jamarion says green banks can be another way to help get clean energy on the ground.
They address clean energy market gaps and address some of the financial barriers associated with transitioning to clean energy. And it makes sure that Nevadans have access to clean energy technology. It makes sure that there's financing around that. And during a really tough year, for Nevada's budget, we were able to secure $500,000 to the Nevada Clean Energy Fund. So they offer so many programs, but one of the programs they offer is a residential energy upgrade program, which offers affordable loans to Nevadans looking to install heat pumps, get better home installation, and solar. Speaking about solar, they also have a Nevada Solar for All program, which helps Nevadans access rooftop solar. So this organization, they do a ton of great work in the state, and we're really excited that they received additional funding this legislative session.
In addition to clean energy, Nevada joined Colorado and New Mexico in strengthening the commitment to funding outdoor access for all this legislative session.
A bill that we really worked closely on, and again, I'm saying this a lot, but we were really happy to see this get passed, is Assembly Bill 108. And what this bill does is it provides an appropriation of $500,000 to the Outdoor Education and Recreation Grant Program account. Specifically, it allocates $250,000 for 2026 and $250,000 for 2027. And this bill, it passed unanimously. It received a ton of bipartisan support because who doesn't want to see more kids go outside and have those experiences? This is important because kids who do go outside more, they have better educational outcomes, they have better mental well-being. So this is good for our state. It's an overall win. It's being handled by this grant program is being administered by the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation. And last round of funding, they saw a huge turnout. I think they received over $2.6 million in asks. So like I said, this is a program that we're excited to see move forward. They received their first appropriation in 2023. In WRA, we also helped work on that and make sure that that was a successful effort. We were able to do the same thing this session. We want to thank the bill sponsors for working on this bill, and we also want to thank Governor Joe Lombardo for signing this bill. And it shows that Nevada, we have a commitment to Nevada's youth and a commitment to ensure that Nevadans have the ability to experience the outdoors.
As mentioned, Nevada was not the only state in the West to strengthen their commitment to outdoor access for all. Colorado also took steps to bolster their funding for outdoor equity programs.
Hi, I'm Taryn Udall. I'm an attorney on WRA's Western Lands team. I mostly work on Colorado policy, focused on trying to protect lands in the state, restore wildlife habitat, and ensure that people have equal access to nature.
The outdoors belong to everyone, and everyone has a right to enjoy them, but not everyone has the same access. These outdoor access funds look to change that.
Colorado is known in a lot of ways for its landscapes and its outdoor recreation opportunities. People think of Colorado for its mountains and all the ways to experience them, skiing and biking and camping and hiking. and our economy is really supported by our outdoor recreation destination and experiences. But not every kid or family can experience equal access to outdoor opportunities. There are a lot of systemic and historic and ongoing barriers like cost and transportation, proximity to natural places that prevent a lot of communities from enjoying wild spaces. And so in 2025, WRA supported a coalition of partners and increasing funding for the Outdoor Equity Grant Program.
Previously on 2 Degrees Out West, we learned from some of the grant program recipients just how beneficial Colorado's outdoor equity grants are. They shared how the funding enables their programs and what kind of benefits they see on the ground. I will link to that episode in the show notes. For those who missed it, Tarn explained how that grant program works.
This is a program that was established in the state in 2021, and Colorado Parks and Wildlife administers the grant program. And it was set up to help address the systemic problems I just mentioned that exacerbate access to nature for certain populations and families. And the grant program gives out small grants to organizations that serve youth getting into nature. These are like outdoor education programs and recreation programs. And since the program was founded in 2021, it's been really successful. It supported over 65,000 youth and their families. But the requests for grants from this program has far out exceeded what was available. So the grant program that was created was capped at $3 million a year. It receives funding from the Colorado lottery proceeds, and the statute that set it up capped the funding at $3 million per year. But just in 2024, so one grant cycle, the program received requests for $21 million. So WRA and our partners saw a successful program that was really addressing this challenge with having equal access to nature. And so we supported a bill at the legislature in 2025 to change how the lottery proceed dollars were allocated to increase the ability for the grant program to capture more money when there's more lottery revenue available. The hope there is that the grant program will then be able to ensure more funding is going out the door to youth and families to allow them to access Colorado's landscapes and all of the benefits from nature.
Tarn says this bill has key benefits baked into it outside of just getting more people outside.
You know, I talked about how outdoor equity grant funds can help ensure that youth and their families, particularly from underserved and marginalized communities, can access the outdoors. I think it's important to underscore that that is the right thing to do on its own. Time in nature is a right to which we are all entitled, and it has many proven mental and physical health benefits. But I think there's also a secondary benefit that is important to highlight. And these outdoor equity funds, by introducing people to the outdoors, can help activate the next generation of environmental advocates. So if a kid gets out into a state park and experiences the joy of being in nature, we think that that will help that person grow into an advocate for the outdoors and for environmental protection overall. So we see it as building a movement that is diverse and creating a conservation movement that is inclusive and lasting.
So, what comes next?
What it looks like on the ground is organizations that meet the criteria. So organizations that work in Colorado to support youth and their families getting outside can apply to the grant program. There is a volunteer board that oversees the grant making. And the board represents a lot of different communities, many of which have also lacked access to nature. And they can submit a grant application of up to $100,000. Eligible recipients include nonprofit organizations, schools and school districts, tribes, and local governments. And they just have to tell the story about what they're doing with their programming to decrease these barriers to the outdoors for communities and youth that have traditionally lacked that access. Then the board meets, and then they end up awarding grants to the organizations that receive them. And so just, some examples then. So then the money goes out the door from CPW, and these organizations, which have different missions and different ways of helping people get outside, go and do their good work. So, in recent years, an organization called Mountain Pride has received a grant, which that organization works on creating comfortable and inclusive environments for LGBTQ plus youth to get outside. And so they have like summer camp activities for those youth. That's just one example of how the monies are spent on the ground.
In order to have good outdoor recreation, we also have to protect the landscapes that outdoor recreation depends on. Further, these landscapes are key to protecting the biodiversity and ecological integrity of the West. Fortunately, Colorado took steps to protect their landscapes in this legislative session as well.
Making sure that there are protected lands available that are healthy and good places to recreate is a key part of increasing access to the outdoors. So in 2025, we worked on protecting lands and then also restoring the health of lands, particularly forests, through 2 different bills. The first one was focused on state trust lands, which are sort of a wonky subset of lands in Colorado, but really important. When Colorado became a state almost 150 years ago, it received lands from the federal government. Those lands, which we call the state trust lands, are required to be held in trust by Colorado to benefit mostly public schools and some other public entities like the state park system. There are 2.8 million acres of these lands in Colorado, and the agency that oversees state trust lands is called the State Land Board, and it's the second largest landowner in the state of Colorado behind the federal government. And the Land Board has this balance in how they're supposed to manage these lands. The lands have to be generating income for the beneficiaries of the lands. Like I said, most of them benefit schools, so revenue generated from these lands go to school capital construction program efforts to make sure there are good school buildings and good facilities. But then the land board also has to be thinking about how to care for and conserve these lands and steward them for future generations. And WRA saw an opportunity for Colorado to consider how to better advance conservation of its state trust lands while still generating revenue. So we helped pass a bill at the state legislature in 2025 that creates a work group, and the work group will have seats for people from all different backgrounds and with all different types of expertise. And the work group is charged with examining state trust lands and delivering recommendations to the agency, the State Land Board, on how to improve conservation, recreation, and agricultural outcomes while continuing to diversify ways to generate revenue for the land's beneficiaries.
Aside from development, another serious threat to landscapes and communities of the West is uncontrolled catastrophic wildfire. A key tool to mitigate the impacts of these severe wildfires is prescribed fire. Tarn said WRA saw a big win in 2025 that will help the state better leverage that tool.
Science has shown us that prescribed fire is one of the best tools to both restore the health of forests and to reestablish historic fire patterns so that fire is moving through the landscape in ways that it has in past generations. But there are a number of challenges associated with using prescribed fire at a greater scale. One of them is concerns from trained practitioners of prescribed fire that they might be held responsible for any damages that happened when using the prescribed fire tool, even if they've done so appropriately and in accordance with their training. So to take away this particular barrier and to try to encourage the use of more prescribed fire, WRA led on the creation of a prescribed fire claims fund. And this is an idea that's been used in other states, and it's proven to meaningfully encourage the use of prescribed fire. So the fund has money in it that can then be used to provide payment to cover any damages that result from a prescribed fire and make the community more comfortable with doing more of these prescribed burns on the landscape.
We've talked about protecting clean air and protecting land access, but WRA also worked to protect Colorado's water.
My name is Chelsea Benjamin. I am a policy advisor on the Healthy Rivers team, focusing primarily on municipal conservation and helping cities to integrate their water and land use planning to grow water efficient as into the future.
The most significant water win WRA saw in Colorado was a bill that limited high water use turfgrass in new developments.
This year was an exciting year for water conservation at the Colorado State Legislature. Our team, the municipal conservation team on the Healthy Rivers team, worked on a bill, HB 251113, which prohibits non-functional high water use turfgrass, non-functional artificial turf, and invasive species on multifamily residential properties, and asks communities to limit high water use turfgrass like Kentucky bluegrass in some way in new residential development by 2028. So that includes single family homes. And this bill was an extension of a bill that passed in 2024, which was also very exciting for water conservation in Colorado. SB 24005 passed last year, and it prohibited non-functional turf, non-functional artificial turf, and invasive species on new and redeveloped commercial, institutional, and industrial properties, and other places where high water use turf is just not used for recreational activities like transportation corridors, rights of way. No one's playing frisbee in a right of way, and in HOA common areas.
She says this bill is a great step to help keep water in Colorado's rivers and streams.
So these bills were both very exciting to us in terms of water conservation and protecting Colorado's water. Because the less we're using on outdoor landscapes in cities and counties, the more water we can keep in our rivers and streams. And non-functional turf particularly has gotten more and more focus over the past few years as a water conservation tool. This particularly means non-native to Colorado species of grass like Kentucky bluegrass that can use up to twice as much water as we get naturally from our climate.
This bill doesn't make all turf illegal. Chelsea says that the functional turf is still allowed. It's non-functional turf grass that the bill limits.
And these Kentucky bluegrass areas can be really useful for things like sports fields or picnic grounds, places that are actively being used by the community. But if you take a little drive around in many areas, like where I live in Boulder, you'll see a whole lot of non-functional turf areas, which are areas that are only being walked on when someone's mowing them. So they're sitting there, sucking up a lot of our precious water resources. And for example, the Front Range, which is where most of the population that's living in Colorado, gets about 15 inches of precipitation naturally from rain and snow each year. And Kentucky bluegrass can use up to twice that in its short irrigation season from April to October. So we're putting a lot of our very precious water resources on outdoor landscapes that are not being used. So these bills that pass at the state legislature are really hoping to curb that water use in future and redeveloped properties.
So how much water does this actually save?
For both bills, we're calculating that they'll save approximately 20,000 acre feet per year by 2035 if implemented well. If we have all cities in Colorado and all counties update their landscape codes, get their teams on board to really make sure these non-functional areas aren't going in, we'll see these types of savings and potentially more. And those savings are really important, especially in the Colorado River Basin, where we get much of our water in Colorado. we're already looking at overuse of water in the basin as a whole, and there's big calls to reduce water use across the basin by 2 to 4 million acre feet, especially in these critical times when water in the main reservoirs on the river are getting very low. So the passage of these bills will help Colorado contribute to those water reductions in a meaningful way. And
with worsening drought and shortages on the Colorado River, Chelsea says these bills are forward-thinking and help prepare Colorado for a drier future.
As far as I know, we're the only state in the West and possibly the country to limit high water use turf in residential properties at a state level.
This kind of state policy is a great example of how we can fight climate change on the local level.
I live in Boulder and see so many apartment buildings that have just acres and acres of lush rolling turf that are using so much of our water right now. So this bill will really make sure that Kentucky bluegrass, if it's used, is used in areas where people are walking on it and enjoying it. It will hopefully also lead to some nice, lush, low water landscapes in areas that are not being used for that. The bill also asks communities to limit high water turf in some way across all residential properties by 2028. And that can look a lot of different ways. There are many communities doing great things along the Front Range in particular. There are some that have limited turf to 25% of new single-family home landscapes, some that require only water-wise landscapes in a front yard and limit high water use turf to a backyard, just enough for the kids to play on and the family to enjoy. And these kind of limits really make sense with our limited water resources. And the legislation is also flexible enough to give communities the opportunity to choose what works best for them. So I think it's really great piece of legislation for the state and will help with our water resource challenges.
There is hard work to do. And with the path to climate and conservation progress and the protection of our communities closed, for now, at the federal level, the way forward is protective state and local policy. The legislative wins and defenses that we've seen in 2025 are proof that is still possible. This is WRA's strength. It's how we've secured more than 91 million tons of emission reductions annually. It's how we've protected more than 2,000 miles of rivers, and how we've added new protections for more than 8.75 million acres of western habitat. WRA will continue to lead in this fight. We've built the expertise, infrastructure, and relationships to drive progress, regardless of these dire federal setbacks. Our reputation as trusted policy and analytical experts across the interior West empowers us to advance climate solutions where we can secure the biggest and most durable climate and public health victories. History has shown that we cannot wait for the federal government to solve these challenges. Our path to limiting the most severe impacts of climate change is still within reach, and it runs through the states. This moment demands bold state-level action and state leadership. WRA is ready for that fight. Are you inspired or curious about our work? WRA is supported by individuals like you. We work on the state level to see action and policy, like we've talked about today, that protects the land, water, and air of the West. To help us continue this work, visit the link in our show notes. Lastly, WRA would like to thank our sponsors who help make our work possible. Our champion sponsor is First Bank. Our signature sponsors are Denver Water, Torch Clean Energy, Scarpa, GoCo, and Southwest Energy Efficiency Project. Our supporting partners are GoCo, BSW Wealth Partners, Meridian Public Affairs, Group 14 Engineering, and Kind Design. Thank you for listening.